Good morning and welcome. My name is Renee Carlson. I serve as General Counsel for True North Legal, an initiative of Minnesota Family Council. Thank you. At Minnesota Family Council and True North Legal, we defend life, family, and religious freedom in Minnesota. But one of my greatest joys is being a mother to my two wonderful children. I'm sure we all agree that parents, not the government, have the right and responsibility to direct the education and upbringing of their children. Schools should be adopting policies and curriculum that educate, not indoctrinate students, our children. In Minnesota, 60 newly elected school board members have stepped up to stop the erosion of parental rights and the policies that drive a wedge between parents and schools. And if you're here today and you're a school board member, would you please stand? Thank you. True North Legal has provided legal counsel to many of these school board members and parents, including some of you in this room. Your courage emboldens many. Certainly, schools face complex and difficult decisions in our current culture. Moreover, schools have a legitimate interest in the education, health, and safety of children that will one day be adults in our society. But respecting the rights of parents to direct their child's education should be the easiest decision schools make. Put simply, when families flourish, children thrive. It's an honor for me and True North Legal to serve alongside many of you. I see many moms and dads in this audience as well that deserve so much credit. We're on the front lines fighting to protect and defend parental rights in Minnesota, and we cannot do this alone. We are blessed to partner with many other local parent-centered groups in Minnesota who I also see here in the audience today. If you're one of those groups, please stand up as well. I want to recognize you. Thank you. We also have a number of parental rights champions in the legislature. If you're in the state legislature, I'm going to ask you to stand and call you by name. Senator Kroon. Thank you. Senator Matthews. Senator Udke. Senator Coleman. And Representative Olson. Friends, these are very brave men and women who spent tireless nights fighting for the unborn on the Senate floor and the House floor all the way until 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. So thank you so much for your fight for life and for your fight for parents and for your fight for so many freedoms that we want to protect and preserve in Minnesota. And now it is a privilege to tell you a little bit more about our special guest today, a national parental rights ally, Vice President Mike Pence, who will speak to the significance of the Parents Defending Education v. Lindmark Community School District case argued today in St. Paul before the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. Many of you know Vice President Pence for his experience in Congress as a governor, and most recently, the 48th Vice President of the United States. But I am told that these pale in comparison to his role as a husband, father, and grandfather to now 3 grandchildren. Being married for almost 38 years to his wife, Karen, a former school teacher, he understands what it means to support teachers who devote their life to a career and calling of educating young minds and being entrusted with their hearts. Being a father of 3, he can relate to many of us. He has experienced the trials and joys of being a parent. Being a grandfather, he is invested in the legacy of America's children and protecting parental rights. In his remarks following the Dobbs decision, he stated that cultural change starts with parents and their children at the kitchen table, a simple yet profound truth. Minnesota allies and friends, please join me in welcoming Vice President Mike Pence.
Well, thank you, Renee Carlson. Thank you for that overly generous introduction, but more importantly, thank you for your incredible work with True North Legal. Now, Renee is too modest to mention it, but she was one of the lead attorneys, along with Professor Teresa Collett, who helped to write an amicus brief with Advancing American Freedom in the Minnesota Family Council that encouraged the Supreme Court to send Roe v. Wade to the ash heap of history where it belongs. And we thank you for your leadership. So thank you, Renee. Thank you for your great leadership. Thank you for the leadership of Minnesota Family Council and True North Legal. You've truly given America a new beginning for life. It's an honor to be here with so many pro-family patriots. Great to be back in Minnesota. I especially want to thank the lawmakers who are here, the senators and the member of the House who are joining with us today, all the pro-family policy organizations, and especially these new school board members who are stepping up for parents' rights in the schools of Minnesota. Thank you. We gather here today because there's a fight underway. It's a fight over the destiny of our children and the survival of parental rights. The truth is, the average American today is being dragged into a left-wing culture war that's invaded our schools, our colleges, and our workplace. Every day we're told that we must not only tolerate the left's obsessions with race and sex and gender, but we must earnestly and enthusiastically participate or face severe consequences. And nowhere is the problem more severe or the need for leadership more urgent than in our public school classrooms. Around the country, as we stand here today, students are being force-fed a curriculum based on what is known as critical race theory, which literally teaches children as young as kindergarten to be ashamed of the color of their skin. Science, history, and even math are increasingly taught through the lens of racial grievance in public classrooms across America. Let me say clearly, critical race theory is nothing short of state-sanctioned racism, and it should be opposed in every city and every state in the land. But what brings us here today is that now radical gender ideology has seeped into our classrooms, teaching children to hate their own bodies and furthering the notion that it's possible to transition from one gender to another. Worst of all, in some school districts, parents are helpless to stop any of this from happening. Across the country, parents' rights are being trampled by politically correct nanny state that's ruining our schools and telling parents that they have no role in their children's most important decisions. Now, Renee mentioned that I'm a father of three, but also the grandfather of three, two of which were born last week to my son and daughter. It's extraordinary. About this time last week, I was literally holding little Etta Rose and Elena Marie. I looked at my son and my incredible daughter-in-law. I looked at my daughter, Charlotte, and her incredible husband. And I just praised God for the blessings in my life. But I felt a great weight of responsibility as well. We owe our children and our grandchildren an America where parents guide the choices of our children at home and at school. And the truth is, no one invests more or has a greater stake in the life of America's children than our parents. No one should have a greater role over what children are learning in the classroom. So we stand here today on behalf of the right of parents to guide what their children are learning and being taught, and the right of parents to be able to know what is being taught to their children and what counseling and advice is being given to them. You know, the truth is, it wasn't our choice to start the left's culture war, but now we have no choice but to win it for the sake of our children and grandchildren, and we will win this fight. But what brings me here to Minnesota on this warm and balmy day is that the road to victory actually starts today right here in Minnesota. Not far from here at the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, St. Paul, oral arguments are being heard in the case of Parents Defending Education versus Linn-Mar Community School District. It's a case out of Iowa in which parents are suing to stop the school district from implementing its radical transgender policies. And I'm proud to say, with the support of the organizations gathered here and more than 20 conservative pro-family organizations advancing American freedom, wade into this fight with an amicus brief, and we are going to take the fight for parents' rights all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. The policy in the Linn-Mar community schools is extraordinary. Designed to facilitate students' gender transitions without the knowledge of their parents. Let me say that again. The policy in the Linn-Mar community schools in Iowa, it was challenged by Parents Defending Education, our organization, and other pro-family groups, is designed to facilitate students' gender transitions without the parents' knowledge or consent. It also is designed to punish other students who fail to use a student's preferred pronoun or who voice opinions about transgender issues, even prohibiting those that may be grounded in their religious convictions, like that ancient truth that male and female, he created them. The school district's policy would allow any student of any age to choose which bathroom to use, which locker room to use, which gender to room with on overnight trips for school, regardless of their biological sex. A young girl, for example, who objects to being forced to shower, change clothes, or use the restroom with boys could face suspension or even expulsion from school under the Linn-Mar community school policy. Any child that asks will be given gender transition plan created by the school district without the parent's knowledge or consent. Let me say that again, because it's at the core of this issue. And I believe it's an issue, not that the majority of the American people stand with us on, but I think it's got to be almost every parent in America. You do not craft a gender transition plan for my child without my knowledge or consent. I believe the American people believe that. But that's the policy in the Linn-Mar schools that's being challenged here in Minnesota today in the 8th Circuit. It's incredible to think all of this could occur in secret, because school officials are actually prohibited from disclosing, and I quote, information that may reveal a student's transgender status. They can't reveal that information without the child's authorization to the parent. This is not just a bad idea. This is crazy. And today, we're asking the court in the 8th Circuit to end this dangerous and degrading policy of parents' rights once and for all, and restore sanity to our public school classrooms and to the families of America. And it doesn't even make sense when you think of other school policies. In the same school district, they require a parent's written authorization before they'll give the child an aspirin. But they can literally craft a gender transition plan without the parent's knowledge or consent. It's truly extraordinary. But you know, the truth of the matter is there's a reason children are not allowed to enter into legal contracts without their parents' permission. It's about protecting our children. I mean, anybody that has ever raised kids understands that children, by definition, are not psychologically prepared to accept full responsibility for their actions. My wife spent 30 years in the classroom and speaks often about this. And I want to mention what Renee said for just a moment. It's maybe because I've been married to a public and private school teacher for 37 years. Men and women who teach in our classroom are some of the best people in America, here in Minnesota and across this country. And the truth of the matter is that they get it in ways that school administrators and left-wing activists don't. So let's hear it for America's school teachers. Let's help them focus on what they're supposed to be doing in the classroom. I mean, the truth is, that's why parents' rights have got to be restored. So parents in this country can guide, instruct, protect their children from impulsive and ill-informed decisions. Nobody cares more about my kids than me. And I think nobody cares more about my grandkids than me. We've got to protect our kids from decisions that they could regret the rest of their lives. And there's nobody better equipped to do that than parents. And one of the most ancient liberties in existence is the right of parents to direct the upbringing of education and care of their children. We're admonished in the ancient text to train up a child in the way they should go. When they're old, they'll not depart from it. For thousands of years, that principle has set into motion our very civilization. The family is a sovereign sphere that predates all forms of government. Family is more than an institution. It is the foundation of all institutions. To undermine fundamental parents' rights is to undermine a cornerstone of our civilization. And we know for a fact that medically or surgically transitioning children comes with scarce health or quality of life benefits. In fact, those who transition are often likely to suffer physical and mental consequences. For the rest of their life, studies show that even if they detransition, victims of the left's transgender ideology often suffer destruction of their natural hormone functions, higher mortality, increased psychiatric hospitalization, and other lifelong problems. Instead of encouraging a gender transition to further some broken ideology of the American left, we should be teaching every child that they are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. But it's hard to understand what drives the agenda of the American left, unless you realize that the family itself as an independent unit is not consistent with the socialist model for America. Breaking down the family has ultimately been a goal of the socialist agenda in this country and around the world. By first removing parents from the equation, Socialists place government as the ultimate authority in the life of our children. But our children are not government property. And our children should not be raised by bureaucrats. Countless studies, common sense, and human history confirm children thrive when they're raised in strong two-parent families with a mother and a father. Unfortunately, rather than standing up for parents' rights, the radical left, including many in the Biden administration, are waging legal battles across the country, empowering doctors to literally mutilate children. They've weaponized the Justice Department against parents attending school board meetings. And as we've seen, their Justice Department has actually colluded with big tech to suppress the free speech rights guaranteed to every American. Well, I would say as conservatives, but as Americans, we believe in the right of every American to think, to speak, to live, to worship according to the dictates of their conscience, and that shouldn't stop at the door of their public school. The good news is the American people are with us. Many more are with us than are with them, I can assure you. I'll be in Iowa in the very district where the Linn-Mar Community Schools operate later today, meeting with Americans just like all of you. And I'm absolutely convinced as we hold this banner high, the American people will rally to the cause of parental rights as never before. I mean, what we need in this country is a return to common sense and common values, and a return to the common good that the overwhelming majority of the American people will support. And look, this is a big country. It's a beautifully diverse population. I'm a conservative, but I'm not in a bad mood about it. Some of my best friends are just as fiercely liberal as me, but when you push back from the table, there are issues that bring us together. It's a belief in the rule of law. It's a belief in the importance of family. And it's those timeless American ideals that we need to return our nation again today. We're never going to agree on everything. But if we focus on what matters most, beginning with life and liberty and family, I believe we can heal what divides this nation. It's really what brings us here today. Our culture is a source of pride, and it's worth preserving. Our liberty is a gift of God. It's worth defending. And the American family is the wellspring of America's strength, and we must stand for the vitality of the American family as never before. And I believe if it was just about your family, it'd be enough to make this fight. And I want to say again, I'm very proud to stand today with Renee, with Minnesota Family Counsel, and True North Legal in this battle. But I also want to say to each and every one of you that I believe the destiny of our nation is tied up in the destiny of the American family. In so many ways, in so many communities, we've seen the disintegration of two-parent families. And the cost now to generations is tearing many of our communities apart. I mean, the truth is that strong families make strong communities. Strong communities make strong states. Strong states make for a strong nation. And in this new century still, this 21st century of widening challenges at home and abroad, we need a strong America. And American strength begins with the family. And so I thank you all for being here today. I thank you for standing with us as we stand with those who are in the courthouse not far from here in St. Paul, making the case for parental rights. And I'd ask you to do one more thing in this time of great challenge, and that is remember that the effective and fervent prayer of a righteous person availeth much. And so as you stand, as you work, as we advocate in the courts of the land for parental rights and the liberties of the American people, I encourage you also to avail yourself of that wellspring of support that has ever strengthened this nation in times much more challenging than we could possibly imagine. And as you pray, pray with confidence, remembering that other ancient text, that if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray, he'll hear from heaven and he'll heal this land. So help us, God. Thank you all very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Pence, for standing for parents. Minnesotans know how important parental rights are and how at risk they are. Our legislators who are here today, we're grateful for the stand they're taking to stop the agenda right now in the legislature to deprive parents of their right to even know if their minor daughters are getting abortions. We have a district court judge who's ruled in that way, and we are grateful for the stand you are making. As the United States Supreme Court said, children are not mere creatures of the state, and our most foundational right is that to direct and guide our children. The court even calls it the high duty. And with leadership in Washington and leadership in St. Paul, we will prevail, as the Vice President has said. Thank you all for being here. We're very grateful that you gave us part of your morning, and we're particularly grateful again for the leadership of the Vice President on this issue.